This is my second ever max old school RuneScape account. I created it with the intention of maxing in the shortest gameplay time possible. After 8 long months, I finished this long grind with a record just short of 792 hours. However, only a few hours later, it was beaten by a good competitor, Hebox. A speedrun this long is bound to have many mistakes, and I thought it would be a fun idea to go over everything where I thought I could have improved. At the end of the video, I will also be adding a cost analysis and answering any questions that were left on the Q&A of my last video. So let's look at the last 792 hours of progress. What could we have done differently? But before we get into all that, a word from our sponsor. Today's sponsor is GamerSupps. A little while ago, I told you guys about my partnership with them, and through that video, we were able to give out a ton of free samples to everyone who wanted to try it. And today, I want to let you guys know that you can take advantage of another promotion, where if you use my code JCW, you will receive any item site-wide with free shipping, and yes, that includes international. So if you enjoyed your samples from last video, and want to order more, use my code. Personally, I've been drinking one caffeine drink while gaming and another casual non-caffeinated drink later on in the night. It's literally just better tasting water, and I can recommend it. If you missed out on the free samples from last video, you can still get them with my code. Be aware that this code only works for free samples if you missed the last one. But those who liked it should still order now while it's free shipping. My favorite flavors right now are Mango Meta, Dragon Fruit Punch, and Blueberry. Hopefully you guys will check it out, and thank you to GamerSupps again for this sponsor. Let's jump back into it. The first time loss brings us to episode 1, where I was training prayer. And look, I have a reasonable excuse for losing time here. On my first episode, I went into this series with the mindset of not wanting to spend my entire bank on it. So I chose to do prayer in the wilderness, which lost me maybe 15 minutes on the way to 99, but it also saved me 100 mil GP. At the time, when I only expected to spend 2 bill in this series, 100 mil was a good portion. In this episode though, I was just cheaping out. For those confused as to why this saves me money, the Wilderness Altar has a 50% chance to save a bone, so essentially you're only using half the amount of bones. The next problem I ran into on this account was in episode 2, which was questing and fishing. And look, in hindsight, I don't think I'd change how I did questing. I did it fine, and I probably could have saved at least 30 minutes to an hour by multi-questing, which is a method where you do multiple quest steps at the same time. So for example, whenever I'm in an area, I would talk to the person that I need to, and then if that person is also involved in another quest, I would talk to them for that quest as well. It's a pretty common method on Iron Man, but I was too lazy to do it on my main, since I had teleports to everywhere. However, doing barb fishing early on in the account was easily the biggest mistake of the entire series. Bearing in mind that I have been MIA from the skilling scene for 2 years before jumping into this series, I had no idea how overpowered low level driftnet was. Rushing 75 fishing through barb fishing in the second episode, instead of doing driftnet immediately at level 44, lost me a total of about 8 hours. And I didn't find this out until episode 4 or 5, when Hebox released his video on driftnet. At that point, I had well over 100 hours played, and I did not want to make this a lifelong thing where I constantly restart when I mess up, given that it was already going to be about 1,000 hours, so I decided screw it, let's continue as is. The next big mistake that I made was probably woodcutting. This one was kind of unavoidable, but let me explain. I never did 1.5 techniques before, and I'm not going to say I did bad there, but I definitely didn't do great. For some context, the EHP rate at 99 is set to 200k an hour, even though some people have maintained 224k an hour over a 6-hour period. The reason the EHP is so low is because it's unrealistic to put the absolute maximum rate as EHP. However, woodcutting specifically has its rate noticeably lower than any other skill. For example, if you look at the mining rate, it's not a whole 10% lower than the maximum rate. So, when you scale my XP rates to what you can get at 99, I was averaging 210 to 215k an hour, and I was happy with it, and thought I was doing a great job. However, in hindsight, that's not really the case. I'm confident I can go back and easily get 220k an hour now, but oh well. I easily lost about 5 hours by just not clicking great here. Look, this one goes without saying. I underestimated the hell out of the boss in Sins of the Father, and I lost about 2 hours due to dying constantly, and thinking that I can go back and clutch the kill. I did this, so none of you have to. So from here on out, any of you looking to do this quest at low combats, do not even try. At least get 65 defense for Chivalry Prayer, or even 70 for Piety if you're an Iron Man. You're welcome. Finally, the other big mistake, which in my opinion was unavoidable unlike the rest, was Logout Slayer. Here's my opinion on why it was unavoidable. Just for a refresher, Logout Slayer is the method where I stack NPCs while in the logout screen and I log in to spec them only, and then I log out while my alt stacks them again. This method has never been done before. Both me and Hebox were learning it as we were doing it. It wasn't really possible to try this on an alt for the first time, since it was such a unique method where even after doing it for 200 hours, I still found myself finding new things that I could save time with. For my first levels, levels 65 to 80, I kind of molded on my Slayer points and complained about bad RNG, and I definitely would have done Spirit Warriors if I knew how good they were. I lost maybe 3 to 4 hours on that would be my guess. However, 80 to 99, in my opinion, I absolutely smashed. But like I just said, there were still some things I was finding out at level 90 or even 95 that I could probably do on a new account and save myself 20 or maybe even 30 hours just from Slayer. This includes things like being better at half killing or balancing my combat XP better to finish them all just right. As for the questing and not doing Dragon Slayer 1 to avoid dragon tasks, to be completely honest with you guys, at this point, after seeing both me and Hebox's Slayer times, I still don't know if it's worth doing DS1 or not. The good side of not doing it is that you never get assigned dragons, however, you also cannot get Barrow's gloves, a 4th block, or even Karamja Elite Diary to teleport to Duradel every time you want a new task. Add all of those together, and not including Slayer, there is 16 hours we found in our run, which were pretty easy to avoid. The 30 from Slayer, like I said, I don't want to count it, because since there was no one that's done Logout Slayer before, I think it was bound to not be perfect in the first place. Anyway, let's move on to cost. After finishing max and spending a bunch of money, I decided to take 10 minutes to sell my entire bank on the account, which for the most part has only had things pumped into it and nothing taken out. At the end of the video, I'll show how much money I found in the account, but for how much we actually lost and were not able to sell back, I added them all together and put them on the screen. The total was 7149 mil, and nowadays that would only be about 5.5 mil since crystal seeds crashed so much for crafting. Surprisingly, this wasn't as much as I was expecting. I was thinking it was closer to 8 or 9 mil, so honestly, I'm pretty happy with this number. Lastly, in this video, I want to go over some Q&A answers that you guys left in my last video. I'll try to go through everyone that's relevant, and I just want to say, if I miss one and it's not an obvious troll message, I genuinely apologize, as there was more questions than I expected. So enjoy watching me sell my bank in the background while I go through all of these. First question. Connor asked me what my favorite skill during the speedrun specifically was, and when I went for 200 mil on my level 3 skiller. I'd have to say, during the speedrun, I had a lot of fun doing pretty much every skill besides Slayer, especially because I was doing methods I haven't done in ages and that I found challenging. Or even stuff like crystal smithing and crafting, which wasn't necessarily challenging, but it was so unique that even though it was only an hour of grinding, it's definitely one of my favorites since I was able to get 26 mil XP per hour. I mean, how many people do you know that can say that? If I really had to choose, I would say probably agility because learning Sepulcher I had a blast with. The learning curve of Sepulcher was so noticeable to the point where it felt really good when I was at the point of getting 100k an hour. But honestly, there's a lot of other stuff such as rune crafting, artifacts, range, even cooking and fireblond that I also loved. When doing 200 mil on the skiller, it was a similar situation where I loved everything, but if I really had to choose, I'd probably have to pick rune crafting. Many of you probably don't know this, but I was very involved in the innovation of rune crafting with runners. And I managed to do 60 to 200 mil rune crafting at ZMI Altar before they nerfed it 1.5 years later. I own and helped grow the original Essence Running Discord, which now nearly has 15k members, and overall I met a lot of great people during this grind, and it's still relevant 5 years later. Finally, would I ever create a free-to-play only account? If you mean casually, no, definitely not. But would I ever make it for content purposes where I'd speedrun or something? It's probably possible, but since I'm doing Iron Man next, there's still over 1500 hours of gameplay before I make my next decision, so I'm not really worried about what comes next yet. Next question. This person asked, why did I not mention Heatbox in my whole series before the announcement video, while he shouted you out in almost every one of his videos? I know early on I did shout him out when he was starting the series, and I do also know that he was able to land a few banter jokes in a couple of videos. But I don't think this is as deep as you're thinking. I just never theory crafted a banter back in a live video. We talked about the overall competition a lot on Twitch, and Box and I chatted on Discord about the series during and even so after the series. Next question. This guy asks how much innovation we can expect over the Osiris route for maxing an Iron Man. For some context, since I'm sure some of you don't know what the Osiris route is, Osiris is the person who made this really nice in-depth guide for early game Iron Man, all the way until Barrel's gloves or even Max Cape. It's commonly used, and it has been for years, for Iron Men who just want to be efficient. What you guys can expect from me is I'm trying my best to innovate over it with the help of some friends, and I can say that you can expect a heavy amount of innovation over it. However, bear in mind that I've never spent more than like 200 hours on an Iron Man account, so a lot of the stuff will still be new to me. Next question. This person asked what my favorite and least favorite skill is. I already said my favorite skill, but I will easily say that my least favorite skill was Logout Slayer. Hopefully we never have to do that again. Next question. This guy asked how many collection log slots I had in the account at the end. I had a total of 55, as you can see on the screen. Most notable, I had the Zombie and Champion scroll from when I was doing temple trekking, and now that I'm looking at this log, it looks like I also got a Lesser Demon one somehow and somewhere. This is probably from my first 50 Wildy tasks, as I don't remember really ever doing a Lesser Demon task, but that is where I would be assigned them. Also, for the pets, I got lucky with the beaver, squirrel, and 2 mining pets. I'm glad you asked this because I also learned just now that I got a second mining pet. I always mined with the chat box closed, so I had no clue. This is pretty massive considering that mining at Granite is one of the rarest ways to get pet. It's about a 1 in 50 mil XP drop rate, and I actually managed to get 2. Next question. This guy asks if I ever do a tutorial island speedrun. I don't think so, but anything's possible, right? Bear in mind that the reason I'm doing these Masscape speedruns is because I generally find them fun. Now, I most likely would have fun with the tutorial island one as well, but note that there's bigger and in my opinion better projects for me to work on. Next question. This guy asks, can y'all invite another YouTuber and have a tournament where the highest skill level after a bit gets a prize? Personally, I've considered this myself and I think it's a great idea. At the moment, since I'm working full-time on the side, I feel like I don't have enough free time to do this, but I can definitely collab with Hebox and see if there's something we can set up if there's enough demand for it. I think something like 24 hours of playtime would be really cool, but I'm not sure if an Iron Man or normal account would be cooler, since a main account would be spending bills. But I mean, maybe if we got the cash prize to be enough, it would make the competition a lot of fun. Next question. This person asks, do you think sub 750 hours is possible with everything flawlessly, and maybe getting some good RNG too? Good Slayer RNG will always be useful, however, since it's 13 mil XP, for the most part, I believe it averages out. If I reran this, yeah, I think I could do 750 hours. I know there's a lot of potential hours saved from Slayer, since I didn't know what I was doing earlier on. Coupling that with being more efficient at a couple things, and some game updates that happened since I started my series, such as Quest XP rewards, I'm 100% sure 750 hours is doable. Next question. This person asks, have you and Hebox discussed whether you attempt to speedrun the new skill Jagex adds? We both agreed to leave the accounts logged out until the new skill is added. I'm not sure exactly when we'll be training it, but we will remax it with a short gameplay time at some point after release. I do know that we both want to get 200 mil in our main accounts first. Next question. This guy asks if I know if Rogue's Den Bank isn't safe in PvP worlds. Answer. I probably didn't know beforehand because I wouldn't have gone there. But yes, now I know. Next. When are you quitting your job to pursue content creation full time? I want you guys to know that I really would love to do this. I just think with everything considered IRL, I'm not exactly there just yet. My answer to this will be to stay tuned, and as always, continue to like my videos, subscribe on Twitch, YouTube, do whatever you gotta do to support me, if you can afford it. I'm hopeful that I will get there at some point. Next question. Do you know how fast the lower limit on this run with current methods is? I'd say Hebox's 771 hours is definitely the lower limit, especially given all the knowledge we had during our run. With all the extra knowledge we got, if someone were to repeat this, I would say anywhere from 740 to 760 hours would be lower limit. Next, do you have any plans on learning PVM to make questing and potential bossing parts of future speedruns quicker? Look, I don't know if I'm being in denial, but I'm 100% sure that that Sins of the Father boss was not a me issue, but rather the boss was just incredibly hard with low combats. It was basically just a DPS check. I've definitely learned from there and will not be making the same mistake in future accounts. I'm pretty sure it gave me PTSD. As for spending time learning some PVM, no, I don't plan on it anytime in the near future, I've done Inferno on my alt just to prove a point to someone back in 2020, and I haven't really done any PVM since then, or before then. Next question. What food do you eat most IRL while maxing this account? This is a tough question because I'm not sure if you mean while I'm actively maxing the account or while I'm logged off. I don't eat while playing anymore, but as for while I'm logged off, I just eat whatever my girlfriend and I decided to, whether it's cook our own stuff or fast food. The most fast food I had was probably Popeyes, and the most common meals we made for ourselves over the last 8 months has probably been Alfredo pasta. Next question. So you and Hebox should do a group Ironman duo and see how fast you can max together. Well, I guess this isn't really a question, but I'll take it that way. So I spoke to Hebox about this, and currently both have separate series we want to work on. However, this is a possibility in the very far future because we are both aware of how much people are in demand for it. Next, this guy asks, how can you play for such long times at very high intensity? How can you have motivation to use such high intensive methods? Well, the answer here is going to be the typical cringe answer that everybody gives when they ask, why do I have to work 9 to 5? But it's literally as simple as, do what you love and it won't feel like work. I've been grinding like this since I was a freshman in high school, and I always loved the hell out of it. Doing it for long doesn't feel like much to me because it's no different than you doing something you love all day long. My tip, don't push yourself. Grinding high intense methods is not for everybody, and keep playing how you want. It's what makes this game so unique. Next, would you ever consider uploading videos on all max XP an hour methods in a playlist? Do you mean like create guides for you guys for the best methods? Personally, I love to do this. At the moment, it's too much, but there's a small chance this can happen in the next 6 to 12 months. This person asked what speedrun categories I could imagine for maxing a main account, other than any percent. There's one that I would love to do that I don't because I don't have enough time. But basically, it's maxing a main account with no alts or interaction on alts. Now, something else unique about this would be that you're not allowed to PVM. All the GP must be made through skilling. This is to prevent the idea that somebody can just create new accounts until they get a T-bow drop early on, or a 3rd age pickaxe, and spend that 1 bill or even 3 bill on maxing quicker than anybody else. If it's limited to only make GP through skilling, I think it has great potential and a lot of different paths that people can take. Next, what would the crafting smithing method be if not for crystal armor? Answer: no idea, I didn't think that far. Off the top of my head, I would probably think something to do with multi-skilling and gem bag, but I mean there's no reason to really theory craft it, right? This person said, how many deaths of Z-back was that? It should be on the board to the TOA to the right of the raid entry. Thankfully, I actually checked this on stream, so I didn't have to rebond my account, but the answer is 306 deaths. Does logging in and out not automatically give you 1 extra minute of playtime? No, and it shouldn't unless I'm playtiming for 1 minute. This person said, were you fuming when everyone else was cutting the tree and mining the rock on the way to Max Cape Island? No, I actually found it hilarious, and I was cracking up during my stream. I wasn't mad at all, and honestly, I was shocked at how many people were there. I found it more wholesome than mad. This guy wrote a dissertation, but the TLDR is, are you worried about Iron Man being super RNG heavy? In some ways, I am. The RNG will heavily impact it comparative to a main. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to max in the shortest gameplay time possible. If we get unlucky, at least it was good content. That's how we coped with Sins of the Father. If/when someone beats T-Box's max cape time, would you attempt to speedrun again? As much as I'd love to run this back, I think a commitment as long as 1,000 hours is something you should do one time and one time only. There's other series that I would love to do that are all time consuming, and I'd rather not spend my whole life dedicated to doing one speedrun. This guy said, how does it feel knowing a new skill is coming to the game? How hard will you vote no? I already voted no in the first poll months ago, but at this point I just want them to hurry up so I can train it and move on. And the poll of which skill should be added, I'm not gonna vote. I'll just let the community pick one, because in my opinion, I don't like any of them, but I also don't think Jagex can get to the point where I'll look at a skill and be like, oh wow, that's really cool. So I'd rather it just get voted in already. This guy submitted an essay about a nacho fantasy. Nice, man. Next, this person asks if I'm ever gonna get 99 Slayer in my level 3 skiller. My skiller has 200 mil in all skills except for 89 Slayer. The problem with Slayer is that there is maybe 2 level 3s in the entire game that consider Slayer an actual skill. The rest of the community counts it as a 0 times 0 EHP skill, meaning a max scaler is max everything besides Slayer and combats. I have zero interest in training Slayer at the moment because the best method is 2k an hour, and I mean, I have a life. What if Jagex were to make a splash weapon and I can get a realistic amount of XP an hour, such as 10 or 15k, I would gladly get level 99. Is Jagex's move. And finally, this person asked if I would ever plan on doing a skiller to max run as well. I answered something similar to this, and it's a similar answer, where my next run is going to be a year long, and I have no idea what's to come next. But a level 3 skiller run to max does sound fun, and it will be very different than a main. I would probably get to do it without including Slayer, but if this is only 2 years in the future, I'm pretty sure Slayer method over 2k an hour won't exist anyway. And now, with all questions being answered, I would like to fast forward this video 2 minutes to the total GP I found on this account since I started. The reason it's so high is because I barely traded anything off, and I probably had about 1.8 bill in gear, along with my skilling supplies that has never been sold or traded, such as bolts made, cooked pies, herblore potions. There is a lot. The final amount, not including the rest since I was too lazy to sell the cheap stuff, is 3644 mil. This is how much I found in the account after maxing. It's pretty nice funds, as I felt poor for a while, and I even sold my stale baguette collection at some point during this series. But now, we have some money, and the Iron Man speedrun can get started. I hope I answered all your guys' questions. I just want to say again, thank you guys so much for all the support you guys have given me the last 8 months. I had a blast during this series, and I really look forward to the next series, with all of you watching. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will be streaming my Iron Man speedrun as much as I can on Twitch, so be sure to check that out in the description below or on the screen. Until next time, peace out, kings and queens.